Good evening, everybody. I'm Pascal Brakman, and I'm will present this evening the webinar specifically about what's new on RouteYou since the last 6 months to 1 year. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Some practical questions. You can ask questions via the chat function. Your microphone is on mute, so nobody else hears you. So if you want to ask a question, please use the chat function. Normally, Rain would follow up the questions, and I would follow up the questions, but unfortunately, she's ill, so I wish her all the best tonight. I was ill 2 weeks ago, so now it's unfortunately her turn. So I'm on my own to follow up on the questions. Some other practical questions. Do you have to take notes? No, we will record this webinar, and so you can watch the webinar again step by step and specifically focus on the aspects you would like to see in more detail. So we're going to talk about what's new on RouteYou since the last 6 months to a year. But let me start by saying that first of all, the basic usage of RouteYou is free. The reason why we do this is that a lot of our customers are tourist organizations or municipalities or clubs, and they want to share their routes and they want to make sure that the routes can be used for free by their customers. Of course, if it's free there, we have to see that we can cover the costs somewhere else. We do that partly by advertisement, as you will see with the basic usage, but we also do that by support of some of you will have a Plus account, and that allows you to have an ad-free function for yourself, so you will not have advertisements, and you will also have advanced creation and usage options of the routes, which I will talk about later on. So you get that from €2.50 per month. There's also a premium account for clubs and small organizations, where specifically we promote events where we give reduction to their members, and that there are several premium features which are interesting to them, such as when they create content, it's ad-free. There's also extra usage options they can offer to their users using their content, such as extra print options and offline options. And there's a specific branding option also there. So that's for clubs. There's also a professional and enterprise account for bigger organizations. And of course, these organizations sponsor our income, and that's how we can do investment. So how do we do investment? Well, specifically with people who are working on new technology. So just to give you an idea, from 2020, we went from 6 people to 9. And in what do we invest then? Well, there are 3 parts we are specifically investing in. The first part is content. The second part is functionality, and the third part is, of course, the community. So what does that mean? Well, the content is routes and route networks, and that allows you to create extra functionality or to provide extra functionality, as we will see. To give one example, if we create an extra content layer for routing for gravel bikes, that's an extra functionality, because then everybody can use it to create their own gravel bikes. But if you create gravel bikes, you probably share it with your friends, and that will attract community. And that community will again create some other routes, which provides us and helps us to keep the content alive. So that's the principle which is behind the thing. It also works backwards, as we will see in several examples. We first will look on what did we do on content investment. Well, first of all, worldwide, we are providing routable networks, so you can make your cycle routes or hiking routes or motorbike routes everywhere in the world. So that's the first thing. We increase the update sequence of all the data, so that's now done monthly. So every month we update everywhere in the world the data which is coming in, especially via OpenStreetMap. That's the first part. We also do very specific networks, such as here in the Netherlands, on hiking networks. And here you see some parts have been increased and that's obvious for hiking. What you most of the time don't see are the small changes we also do every month. This is an example of the cycle node network in Belgium, Netherlands, but now it's extending, as you see, in Germany, but also in France it's extending. There's a specific network extended in Brussels, but also here in the north of France and Wallonia, it's growing very quickly. So that's a few of the examples. There are also more specific networks we update, such as the mountain bike networks and the horse riding networks, but that's scattered in very specific regions. We're also investing not only in the networks, but in specific routing. So we're extending routing options. An example is that for road bikes or race cycle bikes, we have now the option to avoid cobblestones, because a lot of people don't like that at all, unless you want to do Paris-Roubaix. We also have one to avoid slopes for people who want to definitely avoid slopes. And we also have one for road bikes, which are followed by a car, because most of the time we prefer roads, or we send you along roads which are car-free. But of course, if you have a car which follows you, that's not possible. So that's very much appreciated by clubs. So that's new type of routing which has been extended. So the principle of our extension is that we first try out things in the Benelux, we are extending it to Western Europe and then to the rest of the world. So that's how we approach it. A few examples of that is that the specific routing options for race bikes or road bikes, as I talked about, but we also have a new one related to gravel bikes with a different option for winter and summer. We also have inline skating and steps, which are now provided as a routing option. We also invested a lot in height information. Height is, of course, very critical for hikers and cyclists, as you will experience if you do a steep slope. This is an example of the classical height information most of the parties are using internationally. It's called SRTM data. It's a height information. The problem is that it's a bit rough. The good thing is that it's worldwide, almost worldwide available. But here you see an example where we improved the information. So this is the same part and the same slope. The Moskestraat, some of you might know it. It's one of the Flanders cycling classics which are passing there. But you see quite a difference in the accuracy of the data. So we're improving this height model. We also add specific slopes, and we added research and development to improve the process. As a result, the content is growing with a lot of routes. So there are about 5 million almost available, and there are about 3.2 million points of interest available. And you will see later on how you can make use of that. A lot of that is done by individual users, but also a lot by professional partners we are working together with. So those are more than 1,000 organizations. We also have umbrella deals with organizations which are providing services to clubs, for instance. And we also work with a lot of cities and municipalities which are providing their content and using RouteYou. So that's the part of the content in a nutshell. Let's look at the second part, the community. Well, first of all, there was a gigantic growth, partly due to Corona, because there was nothing much else to do than walking and hiking last year. So that resulted in an increase from about 11 million to 19 million unique users per 12 months. So that's now a little bit reduced because of the fact that we can go back to pubs and restaurants, but it's still growing nicely. The result is that we have to invest a lot in servers and server processes. That's boring stuff, and I'm not going to bother you too much about this topic, or not tell too much about this topic. But just to give you an idea, on Sunday morning at 20 to 11, we all are looking more for routes than we normally do, and that's about 16 times more than our average. And of course, our servers have to be able to deal with that. So that's the processes which have been worked out at the backside, which is a bit boring to talk about, but it's important, of course, because you want everything to work nicely on Sunday morning too. We also invested a lot in community support. Of course, with the growing number of people, there are more questions related to our help desk, so we automated that a lot. The help pages have been increased. We also did a lot more tutorials and webinars as this one here tonight. And we also installed a lot of community programs in the time of COVID. One of them was specifically for charity. So if you are a charity organization, please contact us. We have specific possibilities for you. The same for education. And we also did one for hotels and restaurants because they had a tough time during the COVID period. So those are specific programs we did to increase and support our community. So the biggest part which we will talk about tonight is, of course, the extra functionality which we developed the last year. So we develop a lot of functionality in 4 parts. First of all, we're going to talk about the preparation part. So we're going to look for routes. A lot of things change there. We're going to use the routes as the second part. The third part is the post experience. You've done the route. What can you do with it? And with the analysis. So on all those 4 elements, we are keep on working to make that circle better and smoother and to support the whole circle as good as possible. So that's the agenda for tonight. So it's a big list. So we will talk about the new interface, which we created, especially in the menu and the main menu and the shortcuts. We will have a brief look at the new homepage, which has been renewed. The search has drastically been changed, and that's very recent, only a couple of weeks. The output options have been changed a lot. There are extra print options, download format options. The services near your route have been extended, as I will show you. Also, the RoutePlanner has been extended, but more can be expected there in the coming months. There's also new things in the mobile website and the app, which we changed to PWA technology, which stands for Progressive Web App Technology. I will talk about that later in item 7. We also created for organizations specifically MySite, MyApp option, so they get their own environment away from the general RouteYou channel they have. And I will give some examples there. And I will finish up with specifically what we are working on for the future. So that's the last topic. So let me switch to the website. And we will start with the new interface. Maybe you don't remember anymore how it was, but what has been drastically changed is much less buttons at the top. So there are 2 main set of functionalities. The fact that you want to search for a route and that you want to create a route. So those are the 2 main items you probably want to do. Another main thing which we focused on is yourself. So if you're logged in, here you can log in on the right side. I did that already. And here are all the items which are important for you. Your routes, your favorites, your groups, your profile information, your purchases, and the fact if you want to log in or log out. So those items about you, you will find here. Another main thing is that everything, all the functionality is behind this main button, the main menu, including your information. What's there? Well, first of all, here is your information again to start with. If you didn't log in, here you can log in. A last viewed function I will talk about later on. The upgrade, if you want to try or upgrade to a plus or premium account, is also there. And here is the main functionality, search for a route, which you will also find here, plan a route, which you will also find here, and then all the rest. If you want to create or search places of interest, points of interest, news, events, and so on. And to the rest, just have a look at it. But it's all the items which were structured before and scattered here and there are now much more structured in this main menu. So if you forget how to get somewhere, you will always get there via the main menu. Don't forget. So that's the first part. Let's have a look at the shortcuts which have been created. Well, first of all, there's a shortcut for searching in general for a route, which I will discuss immediately. But some of the features were used a lot, such as I want to search specifically near my current position. Also very handy on your smartphone, because most of the time you're looking for routes near your current position. So let me just select that. If I select near me, the system will automatically detect where I am. That's the blue dot here where I am for the moment. And it will automatically detect the routes which are in my neighborhood. So that's the first part. We also added some extra ones, such as my routes. So I only want to see the routes I created, the routes I created as favorite or marked as favorite. Maybe I want to see the best rated routes in my area, or in this whole area in this case, because I'm logged in as now an English speaking person. The most popular routes you can also see, and then very popular thematic or specific routes, such as node routes, signposted routes, nature routes, and so on. So those are shortcuts. So for instance, if I want to see specific nature routes, I can just go to this one, and now I get a lot of routes available in that area. Don't forget, if I zoom in, I'm always zooming in. I'm always getting a selection of the area I am on the right side. So my map area filters combined with the filter settings I have here, and that creates my lists. So if I'm zooming in the north of Birmingham, so I get now a set of routes which are selected from this area and the selection I made here. So in this case, we created some new structure on the route types, so you can select your activity. What are you going to do? Are you are looking for walking routes? Are you looking for cycle routes? Are you looking for horseback riding routes? So there are none available in this area. Are you looking for motorcycle routes, and so on? You will see that if you look for hiking, walking routes, you can be more specific. You are maybe more interested in recreational walking or outdoor hiking routes, which are more adventurous. So I can select, for instance, the hiking routes in this area. So that's what you can do with the search. What's also new is that you can specifically look for a location. So one of the most popular items are repeated here. My current position is one, or routes which are created by myself. So I can just zoom out, and now I get only routes which I created myself. So those are two obvious selections you can make. But you can also select specific items. So I want to specifically now look, for instance, to routes in the area of Pickering. And then I can type Pickering, and RouteYou will tell you, is like, well, which Pickering do you mean? There's a Pickering in the United States, there's a Pickering Castle, or there's the Pickering municipality. So I'm selecting this one, and I zoom now in on Pickering. You will also notice that there's a filter button, and we selected already a few filters. And here I can see, well, which filters did I now select? Well, the author, Pascal Brackman, my routes is still on. So I now can easily deselect it. Nature is still on, I remove that too. And a hiking route is still on. So I can remove that. And now I will see all the possible routes which are in the area of Pickering. So here I have a few. One of them is from a partner, the Black Swan, who's also a nice bed and breakfast in Pickering. So they offer some nice routes. So in this case, you can easily select on a place, such as, let me go back to search for a route. And I can select here the type of the route. I want to have a cycle route, for instance, or a mountain bike route, and I get my set. You will also notice that the information here is differently structured. So the essential information is there, who's behind the route, the author, what's the score of the route, what's the length of the route, That could be also in miles if you switch your settings, and the time of the route and how difficult is it. You will, if you want to get extra information, here's the information button. You can click on that information button, and here you see the description created by the author. Of course, you can just click on it, and then you get all the information of the route as it was before, with the route description, the statistics, the places of interest you will see. Here's the difficulty, the media pictures, and the places of interest you will pass by. That can be points of interest with pictures, or like this, in this case, a video. So this you can all create, of course, yourself too, as we will see later on. So that's looking for an author. Let me select another one. I'm going to go search for a route. I can select it also from the main menu. I could select it from here. Let's try something else now. I'm going to activate it there. And now I want specifically look for an author. And the author is France Vélo, for instance, which is one of our partners. I have to spell it correctly. And here you see the system tells me I've got two parts which will have a nice fit as an author, and I'm going to select France Vélo Tourisme. This is the author I'm specifically looking for. Remember that we make always a combination between the map area and the settings you have here. So I selected cycling routes of this author, but in the selected map area, there's nothing. So I can very easily now remove that map area, just switch that off, and now it's going to look worldwide. I could also have selected a specific region. Now I can zoom in on the area and easily see which routes they have available. Remember, I was selecting mountain bikes. I'm just going to select general cycle routes and see what they have available. So that's how I select now an author and a specific place. We didn't look yet very much into filters, but there are a few new items in the filters. First of all, if there is some kind of filtering going on, you will see a red dot here. So that's the red dot. So we filter on the map area. Again, I can remove that, and then I will search worldwide. I can select the author. I'm going to remove that too. So now I'm selecting worldwide cycling routes, or worldwide, in this case, walking routes, or worldwide boat routes. So you can keep on going with this kind of selection. You can also indicate the length as it was before. You can also indicate a quality score. So if you want to have like top quality, I can also always indicate I want at least to have 4 stars, and then I will only get the top routes quoted on RouteYou. Again, I can search for a specific location, author, or search term. So that's the search term where before it was in the main menu. What's very interesting is that there's now a very easy access to the characteristics and the themes, and you can do the multiple. So you can indicate I want loop-shaped or node network or signposted network, and I'm interested in nature, culture, and classics and long-distance routes. So then I get the selection. You can select further on language to say I'm only interested in English routes, and on the difficulty level, you can also play with that too. So just have a look on those major items and try them out. So that's, I think, a lot of new things to try out. So I'm gonna zoom, click, close it, and now I get my new filter settings. Again, I can zoom in, and now I only get those routes which I indicated here with those filter settings. And you can very easily remove them and get more routes, as you will see. So that's how you play with the filters. Something I didn't mention yet is the sorting. The sorting is also different now. Here you get the list you get here. You can sort based on, for instance, alphabetical order by name, or most viewed of all time. So these are the most viewed, and you could say the most popular routes, or you could see the most viewed this month. So sometimes that's different, or very frequently that's different than overall. You can also see which ones are very newly created, or which get the highest score, and you can even select on length. What's interesting is that in this case now you get very long routes because we sort on length, but you can specifically indicate I'm looking for cycling routes, and they could be maximum 100 kilometers, between 150, and now I can easily go back, and now they're sorted by distance. So first I get close to 100, and then they get shorter and shorter the lower I go in the lists. So that's another easy feature to look at. Let's clean all the filters. Because I want to show something new now on the search, because that's another great feature. You will notice here there's an option, search as I move the map. Before, that was always the standard, and as you now see, it's still the standard, but you can switch it off. Why is this useful? Well, let's go to a specific area. I would like to go to one of my favorite places in Greece, and that's Pylos. It's a beautiful city in the southwest of the Peloponnese where I worked as a student, but it's still beautiful. So this is the area around Pylos. So my filter settings just tell me you're selecting all the routes which are starting in that area, but also are passing through that area. I'm filtering on length. I'm just going to filter on relevance, and that's a combined score. And now I get routes which are starting in Pylos because I get the icon, but there are also routes which are not starting in Pylos, which are starting somewhere else, but they go through Pylos. Well, if I zoom out, remember, if I zoom out, the list changes too, because you always get a combination of the search area and the filter settings. Suppose I don't want to change that list. I'm zoomed in on Pylos, and I want to see, is like, I'm only interested in routes which are starting in Pylos, but which are also starting somewhere else, but passing in Pylos. But I don't want that list to change. So I can now switch that off. And the moment I zoom out now, I only get routes, and there are now 44, which are starting in Pylos or going through the village of or the city of Pylos. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see better. If I move here over this route, you see that it's definitely going through the city of Pylos, because here's the city of Pylos. Here's another one. I zoom in a little bit. Here's another one, which is a great feature if you say, well, I want to go to a certain city, but I want to see which routes are coming from somewhere else, so I can see how I'm going to get to that city. And of course, I can now switch and say, well, please just give me walking routes. And here are a few walking routes, or please give me only cycling routes or motorbike routes, or many others. I didn't show you this one yet. Just examples such as car routes. I talked about kick scooter routes as a new feature. So I'm just going to take all routes available now, and that's how I make my specific selection of the routes which are going through Pylos. This is a great feature if you know an address of, for instance, a bed and breakfast. An address I know very well is where our office is, Kerkstraat, Ghent. I can zoom in. Remember that we selected the area of Pylos, and we told the system not to search in that area. So now I have a button, please search in this area. So automatically it will search in this area. Suppose there's a bed and breakfast here. I can very easily say, well, please switch off searching as I move the map. And very easily, I can now see, I'm just going to recalculate. Yeah. So I can zoom out now, and now I get a lot of routes, and they're all going to pass the bed and breakfast place I was just selecting. So that's a very easy way to see, is like, well, which routes could I do, which are passing that specific bed and breakfast, to just give you one possible example. So that's the major new features of the search. What's still there is the buttons here. You can increase and view the whole area with this button. So now you get your whole screen is now the map screen. And what's also possible is that you can select many map layers. So for instance, you can select Google Map if you have a paid account, satellite images, OpenWalkMap, which is very useful, OpenCycleMap. They might be useful if you're looking for routes, but I will show them again, these options in the, if you plan a route, because those are great features to plan a route. One specific feature which might be interesting is, I can show it in the search, but also here. The map layers which you had in the search, they have the same structure in the route viewer. That's also new. You can see the road properties. That's a very handy feature. And the road properties indicates on your route or on the routes next to it, is it paved, is it unpaved? Of course, you might not remember what the meaning is of those symbols. Well, in that case, next to the line here of the map layer, road properties, you see here a question mark. I can click on the question mark and I get to the information. What are those symbols meaning and what can I do with them? So you will see it in other maps too. For instance, the topo map in this case of Belgium. And you can also see what are the topo map attributes and what do they mean. So that's the legend you get there. So that's also a new feature since last year. Yes, let's move on to the outputs. Let's go back to a nice route. Let me select, for instance, a route again in Aberdeen. Search for a route. Let's do it. Let's go to Aberdeen in Scotland. It will tell you is like there's one in the United States, there's one in the United Kingdom. That's the one I want. So Aberdeen is a great place in the northeast of Scotland. So I can zoom in that area. Again, I'm going to check my filters. What did I select here? That looks okay. I want specifically a motorbike route, or no, let's take a cycle route. Starting from Scotland, I only want high quality routes with 3 stars or more. And I see we'll have to lower them a bit. And here we go. Yeah, so I see the Aberdeen tour. So let's take one. Oh no, I wanted to demonstrate another feature. Let's go for search for a route. I wanted to demonstrate I'm looking for a specific theme route and I want a route. I don't know which type yet, but let's take all routes. But I'm interested in movies. So I want to see films. Where are you? Films, they're alphabetically. So here I can see, well, in Aberdeen itself, there are no routes related to films, but I'm going to zoom some out and let's see which filters are on. That's very useful now to have that summary. Oh, I put the location in. I'm going to remove that. And now I see all routes which are 2 stars or more, and they're linked to film. So I'm going to go back to Scotland. I could zoom in, or I can just go back to Aberdeen in this way. That's an alternative way to get back to Aberdeen. And now I can zoom out and see, well, are there any routes available in the neighborhoods which are linked to Aberdeen? I forgot to switch off this thing, so I want continuously, if I move the map, a route. And this route is walk around Roslin Chapel. For people who saw the Da Vinci Code, that's where it ends, on the beautiful chapel of Roslin. So you can read about it. So this is now a route which is there available. I want to go to the next part, which is the print part. So as you will probably know, here you will find all the information of the routes with the difficulty level, the points of interests. You can read about them here. You can also click on them here. So all the information is there available. But I would like now to make use of this route. So the first option I have is I can use it on the RouteYou app. I'm going to keep that for later. I'm going to start with the print. So what's new on the print? Well, first of all, if you print a road book, what's new is that in the more options, you can now see how many pages, maps you want per page. Let me demonstrate with number 6. That's the default. I'm just going to keep it as is. And I'm now just downloading the print of the road book, which gives me the route in several parts. And here's the map. I'm going to open it in Firefox. And here you see now my walk. So my walk is now starting here in Roslyn. I have to follow that road. Then I have to go to page 2 and then to page 3 and so on. But you see that there are some small, well, the maps are relatively small because they have to be printed on an A6. Here's the end, and here's the information of the street names. So what I would like to have now is a bit more detail of the map. So how can I do that? Let's go back. I can switch here to indicate I only want 2 maps or 4 maps per page. Let's take 4, because otherwise I'm going to have too many papers to print. And it should get there in a few seconds. Yeah, so now you see that I get maximum 4 maps on one, and I get much more detail. So if you like detail, you can even go to 1 per page. So that's new. What's also new is that on the overview, some people don't like those points of interest. It's true that some authors put a lot of points of interest, and that might clutter in your map. Let me show you what's the standard. This is the standard, and the standard gives you the points of interest on top of the map. So this is now an overview, and on the overview, I see the points of interests in gray here, which are indicated on the map. My starting point is just behind one of those points of interest. Some people don't think they're very useful, those points of interest. Well, for those people, there's now an extra option. You can switch off the points of interest and download them. And that's also a new feature. And let's have a look. And now you will see that you only get, oh yes, I have to clean my cache, but you will see if you do it the first time, it will be removed automatically. It's because it's still in my cache. It's not working correctly now, but you will see with another route that's will work fine. So that's the extra output option. There's also another offline option which has been made available, and there's been a lot of development related to the RouteYou mobile website and the mobile app. Since almost, it's a bit more than 12 months now, we created not only a mobile website which is working, but also an app which is working on PWA technology. That's boring stuff, which I'm not going to go into much detail about, but PWA technology allows us to make a website and an app with the same technology and with the same structure. What's the difference? Well, let me first show you here. You can as well use the routes in the mobile website. And this is a simulation of the mobile website on your smartphone as on the app. What's the difference? Well, here you see I'm in a browser. You see that on the top here that I'm in the browser. Here I started up the app and I'm not in the browser. It's a separate environment. Let me now show you what we created. So suppose you're looking for a route. I'm going to look for a route near my area. So I'm looking for a route, and I'm in the area of Bruegel, the painter. And he was living in Brussels, but he came frequently to Pajottenland, where he painted one of those paintings you will see here. But that's beside the point. So suppose I would like to do this route now on my smartphone. How do I get from here on my desktop to there? Well, the first feature I talked already a little bit about is the feature of the last viewed routes. You will see in your menu that I'm logged in already, and you have this option last viewed. What does that show you? Well, it tells me all the routes I was looking for before. If you want to remove that, because there are some routes you're not supposed to look at, but I wouldn't know which ones. But anyway, you can clear that list. So that's also a new feature. In this case, the last route I was looking at was following Bruegel. There's also the one I was looking before was the Roslin Chapel. So here you can go back to the routes you were looking for. The nice thing is that's also going over different devices. So if you're logged in on your computer with your account, like here, I'm logged in, but I'm also logged in on my smartphone. In this case, I'm the same person with the same account. The system knows automatically your last viewed routes of those two things are the same. So very frequently, maybe on Saturday evening, you're preparing your routes for what you want to do on Sunday. You go to on the next day on Sunday, you open up your smartphone, you log in, and I just go to my last viewed routes. I was watching Following Bruegel the day before. I just select that route and I get to the same information. It's a little bit different, as you see, because on desktop, you get more space. On smartphone, we put the map on a separate button, but all the information is also there. So the route description, the structure of the route information, that's also the same. So you get all the same information from one to the other. Also, your menu structure in the app is exactly the same as the menu structure as on desktop. So once you know it for desktop, it's the same for the app. You will notice that, of course, there's a little bit less space here on the top. So we had to remove some information. So the search for a route is there, but you will see that all the information is a bit more compact. Planning a route, which I get to later on, is also there. My information is also there, but it's a bit more compact. Some of the information, it has been removed, but that's you will find in the main menu structure. So that's the first way. The second way is sometimes you will find QR codes. You noticed before on the print that there's a QR code. Suppose you are an organization, a tourist organization, and you put leaflets in your office. Let me just do that here. I'm just going to print. I'm going to print a guide. Let's do the guide. I didn't show that yet. I could print the overview or the road book, but the guide is the same, or it's something different. But you will see that you get a lot of information there. Here's the guide. I'm going to open. Yeah. So yeah, that's offered by a certain organization. Here's the overview of the route. Here's the profile. We oriented it in landscape in this case because there's a better use of space. And here's all the information of the thing around the route. I want to get to the end because at the end there's a QR code. There's a QR code and there's another code. Those two codes you can make use of because suppose you give that as a leaflet in your tourist office or if you create an event. You can now use this QR code and say, well, people, please scan it. And people who scan this, they will automatically open the route on their smartphone because they scan it with their smartphone, and it will automatically get to that route on their smartphone. They don't even have to install the app. So what will happen is that the mobile website will open, but that has the same structure, and that mobile website will open automatically without downloading or going to the App Store or registering. You don't have to do anything. You just scan the QR code, you open up, and automatically you get to that route. Another way, if people don't know how to use QR codes, another alternative is to say, well, please copy this code and go to your phone, go to RouteYou, and fill in here, search in the site, in the main menu, fill in that code. And then automatically the system will know you're talking about this route, which is the same route as we just got here. So you can use the code or you can use the QR code one way or the other. Of course, The user can also say, well, the route starts here. Well, just go to that button and search for routes near me. And then you get to the list of all the routes near you, and you can specifically filter on a specific name if you like to do that, if you wouldn't find it immediately. That's another alternative. But the first two are much more easier if you're creating an event. So that's also new, that kind of code or QR code you can immediately get to. What else is new? Well, as well on smartphone, in the app, or on the mobile website, or on desktop. Let me go back. You will see here that there, beside the print, there are also download options. Oh, I forgot to tell this one, the offline option. Let's go back to smartphone because there it's more useful. I'm going to go to the last viewed route, which is following Google. You see, that's why it's very handy. But one of the features as well of the mobile website as of the app, so it works for both, you can use the route offline. So I can press the download button. Of course, I'm on my app. I don't have to download anything, but this might be useful to say, I want to work offline. I'm just going to press it and let's do it. And you see, I'm now, of course, on Wi-Fi. If you would be on 4G, it will take a few seconds more, but you see it goes very fast. And you get now the routes also available if you don't have a connection. So that might be very useful. As I said, it works as well on the app as on the mobile website. How does the mobile website look like? Well, let me just show you. That's how it looks like. It's very similar. Let's go back to that. So if I would have scanned it and I don't have the app, that's how it would look like on my phone. That's how I would get to the download function and to the offline. And I just press it here. And yeah, of course, it's I'm doing it twice now on the same system. But here you see it works as well on the mobile website as on the app to work offline. How do you go offline? Well, most of the time the system does it for yourself because you don't have a connection, and you will see if you don't have a connection, it will still show you the route with the map and the points of interest. The only thing we don't synchronize is videos which are linked to the map. In this case, it's a picture, so that will be okay. If it would be a video, it wouldn't do that because that would take too much data or time. So that's something you will not have if you work offline. What else is there to say? Oh yeah, suppose you're on your smartphone and you would say, well, how do I get from here to the app? Well, you don't have to go to the App Store. You just go to the main menu, and here you will see the option install the RouteYou app. Of course, that's not available there. Yeah, here I already installed it, so that's why it gives me this info. But you will see if you try it on your smartphone, it will give you the indication what you should do to get from here to the app. So don't go to the App Store, just go to the main menu, and you will see there the button install the RouteYou app. Of course, I'm here already in the RouteYou app, so I can't install it here because that doesn't make sense. So that's about using the outputs. I wasn't done yet with the other output options because next to the offline, you will also see a new Garmin function. And here's a new button, which wasn't there before, send to my Garmin device. That works now with the Garmin Connect technology. So that's technically an API which connects directly your Garmin device towards your RouteYou platform and allows you to sync with one of the Garmin devices which are being supported by Garmin Connect. Read a bit about Garmin Connect, but know that if you have Garmin Connect and a Garmin, it automatically syncs via this button. Another alternative is Mio. We also have a collaboration with Mio. There it's even easier because Mio took care that if you have an account on RouteYou and an account on Mio, it allows you to sync. And the only thing you have to do is say, well, I like this route. I want to mark it as a favorite. And you can do that by pressing the fourth button here, and I already marked it as a favorite, and now it will automatically sync with my Mio device. That's with the Mio Discovery series. So that's even easier, because then the only thing is you look on your desktop or on your smartphone to routes you like. Let's, for instance, select one, signposted route, and let's take one I didn't use yet. So suppose I like this trail, I can now indicate that I want to add it to my favorites. And that's very handy, because if I want to do it in the future, just suppose I'm on my smartphone and I would like to see my favorites. Well, I can easily go here and select my favorites. And now I get only routes which are my favorites. And that was just the trail I selected here. So that's a very handy way to get the routes which you would like to do in your area or outside your area, and store them in your list of favorites. Again, if you then have a Mio device, it automatically syncs without you doing something extra. So that's another new feature. Yes, since I'm here, you will also notice that there's a button, submit as recommended. So if you like this route, you've done this route, you can use this submit button. It could be your own route, which you said, I've done this route and I really recommend it. So you can submit as recommended. And what's new since today, so that's really new, you can indicate that I liked it, but it was pretty average, it was good, or it was very good. And you can indicate that all the criteria which are essential for us to analyze is also there. And you can give some feedback and say, well, it was a great route, but a bit tough. And you can indicate, please give that feedback on the route so everybody can see it. I'm going to switch it on so everybody can see it. So I'm going to confirm it. I'm going to close it. And what's happening now is that the system will analyze your request. So there's an automatic system behind it to analyze all the information, including the fact that you recommended this route. So what's there? Well, first of all, here's my my personal input. It gives the indication that I said this. And the second thing is that RouteYou also analyzed it and gives some information about statistics. In this case, it got already 5 stars, so so nothing changes probably there in that case. But that's also a new feature. So you don't forget, you can do this for any route you see. If you like it, please tell it to the system, tell it to other people that this is a route you recommend, and so other people can enjoy it too. So what else is there? Well, let's go to a route somewhere in Barcelona. I would like to select now a route, search for a route. I would like to go to Barcelona. Let's take a walking route. Barcelona is the place I would like to go to. And yeah, that's the one in Spain I would like to have. And I want specifically, let's see, I don't want to signpost it, but I do want specifically a theme related to, for instance, movies and literature. Let's take that. Where's literature? Yeah, so now I just click next to it. And here are a few routes which are now in Barcelona. The Shadow of the Wind tour and some other routes, the Cathedral of the Sea, both books. So I'm selecting this one. So this is now my route. What's also new is that before you had already nearby information such as routes nearby at the bottom. So these are alternative routes, and because I selected a walking route, it gives me alternative walking routes of high with a high score, but I can select more routes. That was already there before. What's new is that I also get a list of lodging nearby. That was there before, But I can select more lodging, because you will see is like, yeah, well, here I would like to stay a bit more in the west side of Barcelona, but yeah, I don't know where that lodging is. I can now select this, and now you will see there's lodging coming, and say I can stay here. I can click through and see what kind of information we have. It's the Hilton and so on. I get extra feature and so on. So I get the information if I would like to make use of that. That could be very handy if you have, for instance, a long cycling route, which we will see later on, and you would like to select a sleeping spot. So that's new too. Let's go to the other part, because we don't only have lodging nearby, we also have services nearby. Other services, and other services that could be a place to eat, that could be a marketplace, that could also a shelter place, and so on. So that's also here. If you want all the services nearby, the same principle, you select this, and then you get not only hotels and restaurants, but all the other services, and it doesn't matter where I move to. Here I get all the other services which are available. What's also new is if you want to be a bit more specific, well, remember the map layers I talked about? You can select different map layers, such as satellites, Google Maps, OpenStreetMap, RouteYou Map. Let's go back to the RouteYou Map. But I want specifically places of interest. So, but now I want to select my specific set of places of interest. So I can switch them off. And now I only get the places of interest created by the author along the route. But I want to add some other places of interest because I want to do or know something else, for instance. I can also do that here and say, well, please switch on the places of interest. And I can even filter which places of interest by clicking on this filter. And I can say, well, I only want services. But for instance, you might be interested in, what's a good example? Musea. So I'm going to select museums, or musea in English. Let's select the type museum. And now I get all types of musea which are in the area and which I can look for. Or you might be interested in something else, hotels or bed and breakfasts. That's another way of doing it. So it's actually the same functionality as you saw before. That's also there. So that's a really powerful tool, because it doesn't matter what the author now put as information along the route. Here you can say, well, please add extra information, extra places of interest, which I'm interested in. So that's also a very handy new feature. So that's about services near your route and the map layer. Let's go to the sixth part, which is the route planner, because also in the route planner, we increased quite some extra functionality. Let's plan a route. Let's create a route. A few of the features you've seen already. I'm going to close some layers here. Yeah, let's create a route somewhere north of York. This is the route planner, and I want to go to York, and from York we want to go to Pickering. So that's the place Pickering I was talking about. Remember, there was a nice bed and breakfast I wanted to stay, and it's the Black Swan. So how would I go on now to say, well, I'm going to cycle from York to Pickering, but I want to end up at that bed and breakfast. Let me show you how you would do it in one way. Well, I'm going to start in York. I can give an address here. First of all, I have to say I'm going to go from A to B. Then I'm going to say, well, I'm a cyclist, but what type of cyclist are you? Are you a recreational cyclist, which means you don't mind some gravel roads? Or are you a road biker or race cyclist? I'm going to select race cycling, so I don't want gravel roads, but I don't want to go from New York. I want to go from York and specifically UK. And here it selects the start. I could enter the address, Pickering. Oh, it takes Pickering, but to make sure, I want to make Pickering also in the UK. That's better. So now it gives me the nicest cycling path from York to Pickering. As I told you, we have some extra ones. I don't like cobblestones, so I say please avoid cobblestones. Please adapt that for the full route. Or I can indicate I'm going to follow with a car. So somebody is following with a car. Please only take roads which you can follow with the car. So those are new features, and please adapt that for the full route. So now I know that that route only is also possible to follow with a car. So those are the new routing types I talked about in the beginning. There's also one with where I can avoid slopes, but I will show you later on. So those are some examples of new routing types. But I said I was interested in staying in a bed and breakfast or in a hotel. So how do I do that? Well, as you saw with the map layers on the route viewer, you have the same map layers here, actually a few more. And I'm going to select places of interest. I'm going to select places of interest, and you will see that this menu structure will change because the system will say, well, you would like places of interest, but which ones would you like? And in this case, I'm interested in not all types, but I'm interested in a hotel. So I'm going to select a hotel. I could be very specific. In this case, I know it's the Black Swan, so I can search for Black Swan, and probably it will give me, yeah, only the now hotels which are related to Black or Swan or something are there. And you see already my option here. I'm happy with my selection, so I'm going to continue planning. So that's it for my selection. And now I can continue planning. I can now indicate, well, what do you have here? And this is the Black Swan Inn. That's exactly the place I want to have. Just to make sure, I'm going to select it. It's like, yeah, that's what it is. And I can now go back and indicate, please plan via this place of interest. And to make sure, I'm going to add it to the route, so it's also part of the route. Here you see that the system tells you to go from A to B and from B to C. But in this case, I don't want to make this U-turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it. And the system automatically allows me to calculate how the nicest route for race cycling or road bikes with the car from A to B to C to my hotel. And here I can save the route. Just imagine 54 kilometers, that's not too long, but suppose I would like to do only half and stay somewhere in the middle. Where could I stay? Well, again, I'm going to go to the places of interest. In this case, I'm going to keep on hotels, but I don't want the term Black Swan because there are probably not many. And I see already, here are some hotels nearby. I select this one. I don't like this one. I prefer this one. I can have a look, for instance, what it is. I can even do my direct booking if I like it. But what's more important in this case, I would like to pass there. So how do I do that? Well, you see every time I move my cursor, there's a via point or waypoint appearing on my route. The moment it's there, I can take it, drag it, and drop it at that spot. So now I'm going to cycle to my bed and breakfast or my hotel. And from there in the morning, I can keep on going. What I would like to do, I would also like to add that to my route. So now I have my 2 bed and breakfasts or hotels where I will stay, and I can save the route. Continue planning. Oops. That's the one I wanted. Continue planning. I'm going to save the route. And that's my York Pickering was my route. I could give a nice story here, and I'm going to save it. And now I will have a route with 2 points of interest because I added them manually. So here's my first hotel, and here's my second hotel. Of course, you can not only do that with hotels, but you can also do that with breweries. So you can make your brewery tour or your historical tour or whatever tour you would like to make. Let's do a historical tour. search for, sorry, not search for a route, plan a route. So I'm going to create a route. Let's do a car trip, for instance, in Scotland. And I would like to see some movie places. I would like to go to places where there's something done with movies. As you see, I'm into movies. So let's select points of interest or places of interest. Well, which places of interest? Well, I can't select a specific type because it's not necessarily a hotel or a museum or whatever, but there are also themes and characteristics. And if you're a bit familiar with themes and characteristics, you will know that movies or films are part of the characteristics. So I'm happy with my selection and I can continue planning. So now I can go from my Rosling Chapel, which we selected before. I'm going to start in my Rosling Chapel. I'm going to plan via this place of interest. Oh, I forgot to say that I'm a car. So I'm going to first indicate that I'm making a car route. It gives me the options there, and it's selecting motor nicest or motor shortest. For cars or motorbikes, that's the same thing. Of course, I want to select the nicest in this case. So I'm going to go from Rosling towards Stirling, towards the National Wells Monument. For people who've seen Braveheart, I can plan via this point of interest. I can select Castle, and all those places have something to do with movies. If you wonder, what does this have to do with movies? Well, you can just click on it. It will automatically open in a second tab. Here it is. And this was Sir Walter Scott and related to the novel Rob Roy. And you probably remember the movie Rob Roy. And that's how I can make now my tour. And I'm going to call it my movie tour. That's another place linked to Rob Roy. And I'm going to go back. I don't have to go to those places. You can see, you can just click on Perth and then go back here towards this place. And we're going to stop there. I don't have to stop at the same place. So now I'm going to save my route. I'm going to call it my movie route. And it's probably a car route. That's correct. And I'm just going to save it. But now remember, I didn't mark those points of interest as please add them to the route. I could have done that, but I'm just going to show you that we have something easier. I've got my route, but I can, with a pencil, indicate that I want to add places of interest. And what type of places of interest would you like to do? Well, first of all, I want maximum 30. Let's take 50 if there are. They should be maximum 1 kilometer from the route. And the theme should be, again, you know, films, because I know that already. I selected that already. So now the system will detect film points of interest along that track with maximum 1 kilometer from that route. So here you will see the information of Castle, and it was used in Monty Python. And here I get the other information of, that was Rob Roy Way, of course, linked to Rob Roy. And I get my guide. I can print it as a guide and download it with all the information with it. So with your premium account, every route you create for somebody else, they will also get that type of information. With a Plus account, you can do it for every route yourself. Oh, I forgot to download it. Sorry, let me just show you. Of course, you can use it digitally, but you can also use it on paper. Let's go back. Open up. Here's my movie route. It's created by me. Here's some information. That's the whole route I do. This is the things you can see along the route. Yeah, the height profile for my car is not that important. And here's all the information I have so I've got my own personal routes or guides for that thing. And I also have the QR codes if I want to go back to digital. So that's about the route planner. There's another new feature on the route planner since a while, and that's another great feature. It's reference routes. And what's the use of that? Let's go to create a route. A classic example is the big road, the pilgrimage road to Santiago de Compostela. You might like to do a part, but it's always difficult. Yeah, which part should I do? What's useful? I don't know much about the area of Spain or France, but let's assume that I'm staying in Bordeaux with some friends, and from there we would like to start our big trip to Santiago de Compostela. So how do you start now? Well, you noticed already I can put in some map layers. One very useful map layer is the Open Walk map. The Open Walk map, you will see if you zoom in detail, that you will get some extra information of interesting paths to take. So that's already in the map, but you can also select specific routes from RouteYou. So how do you do that? Well, you noticed already that you could select places of interest. I could select places of interest related to hotels where I could stay, but now I'm looking for paths I want to follow. So which paths would we like to see? Well, I want to see routes. Again, the same thing. What type of routes would you like to see? Well, I want to select walking routes. So here's a walking route. I'm gonna indicate the length. I want them to be a bit long because it's a long distance route, and I want to have quite some quality. So I'm gonna take 3 stars and higher. I could select a specific author, or I could select a specific theme. And one of the themes which might be useful is pilgrimage in this case. So here are here's pilgrimage routes. So I can select pilgrimage, and I can zoom out a little bit. Maybe I've been a bit too critical. Oh yeah, here's some routes. I've got a few options here. So, but not in the Bordeaux area. So I'm going to be a bit less selective and say, well, oh yeah, I selected philosophy. That's why. I don't want philosophy. Oh, well, pilgrimage. That's better. I was a bit surprised why we didn't get any results. So here I get some pilgrimage routes with high quality stars. Of course, I can select them one by one, but here's an option. I've got 17 routes in this area. I'm going to select them all, or I could select them one by one. Let's select them all. And now I'm happy, and I go back to continue planning. So now I see from Bordeaux, I obviously have 2 good options to go to Santiago de Compostela, this one or this one. I'm going to assume I'm going to start a bit from the eastern part of Bordeaux. So I'm going to try to get as quickly as possible to the green part. I indicate I want to go from A to B as a hiker. I'm going to do a walking route, and I'm going to follow hiking nicest or shortest. It depends a bit what you want to do. Let's take shortest because it's a long road towards Santiago. So I'm going to click from Bordeaux. I'm going to now go to the green part as quickly as possible. And now from there, I can follow as good as possible the green part if I want to do that. But if you want to deviate because you've got points of interest, or you've got a breakfast which is just off the road, you can easily switch, click on that and then go back towards the green line if you want to continue and follow that green line. So that's how you do that. You see the system doesn't automatically follow the green line. The green line is just there to indicate that's a possibility to follow. So I can move it towards that part if I want to. So this is how you create your route and keep on following other routes. You can make any kind of selection. This is now hiking, but you could also take road bikes, mountain bikes, other mountain bikes to create your own alternative on a specific route. And I call it my Santiago de Compostela. Although it's still a long way to get there. So that's how you can make use of others people information and do something with it yourself. And here's now my personal hiking route. Yeah, so far about reference routes, map layers. I told you already about the map layers. Open Cycle Map and Open Walk Map are definitely great maps to look at, especially if you go into more detail. In some areas, we also have, in this case, the topo map of France. The cartography on this level is not my preferred cartography. When you go in more detail, it's getting more interesting, but you see here the height lines, it's all there. So of course, if you're in Belgium, you take the topographic map of Belgium, and in the Netherlands, it's also it's another topographic map. I can let's select the Open Walk map, and here you see very interesting information. We also have road properties, which with information we add or detect interesting information which might be useful. Again, don't forget the legend is behind that question mark. Something I forgot, you can also see, and that's great, for instance, if you go with a group of people and you walk along that hiking route, very frequently people have different speeds, different tempos to go from A to B, and it would be nice to see where is person A and where is person B. Well, you can just switch that on, who is active. Probably it's dark, so nobody's going to be active there, but I just simulated because you will see that I put myself active. So you will see, oh, sorry, you will see that I'm probably active around Brussels. Oh yeah, and I have to finish quickly because my battery is getting to an end. You will see other people which are sharing their position, and you can see where they are. So how do you share your position? I didn't show you that yet, but let me show you. If I start a route, I can, yeah, here I am. Let's take this route. I can just start, and the moment I press start, I have here the option to share my position. So if I share my position, I can also see other people's position, and you will see now, if you look on the map, that I'm sharing my position, so everybody can see that. So that's an extra feature on the PWA I didn't talk about yet, so that's also an extra feature. Since I'm running out of time, I will finish up by just adding that or telling that every account, professional accounts, can not only have their own channel on RouteYou. Let me just show you one of the channels, which was our partner from France. I showed you already. Let me show you France. Where are you? Yeah, France Vélo. So France Vélo has his own channel on RouteYou with the routes they have, the points of interest they have. And we also have some other ones, such as Brussels. Let me show you another partner, and that's Brussels. They also have their own channels on RouteYou. Here's Visit Brussels. But they also have their own website and app. And here you are within RouteYou, and you see, for instance, the difference. If I go to a route within their channel of RouteYou, we also show some other routes nearby, but not necessarily their routes. So some organizations prefer to have their own separate environment, and that's what we created with the MySite, MyApp. For individual users, that might not be that interesting, but if you're an organization, you might be interested in discovering the MySite, MyApp. This is their own environment. It works as well on smartphone, as you see here, as on desktop. Let me show it on smartphone. They have their own URL, and you will only see their routes which are available in the area and their points of interest. So I can here select this route, But what's also great is you have all the information there, but all the functionality, you know, from RouteYou to say I want to navigate. I can start my route now and I can start navigating. I forgot to, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's reduce that again. That's very useful on your smartphone, but not in my demo. But I wanted to do here is the map layer and create a perspective, because that's nice to navigate and to follow the route, because the map will automatically follow my position as you're used to from the app. So that's what's also available. So you will now only see their routes. They also have a route planner. They also have places of interest. So I can now select places of interest in Brussels, which they provide with extra information and make use of that. So that's the part I wanted to end with. Of course, there's still a lot of things we are working on. What you can expect in the future is we're pushing our new style of interface through to the routes viewer. That's not there yet, but also on the route planner. And we're also working on turn-by-turn navigation and also more on profiling issues. I'm going to show you already one of the aspects of profiling. If you get news now there's a mixture of news you get between mountain bike information, hiking information. If I'm only a hiker or a walker, I might not be that interested in information of mountain bikes, for instance. And you will see that in our news overview, you see already, we're going to take that filter information into account. Here you can still filter on the information you want, but here we already have the option. This is personalized, so we are pushing this through now. Or if you don't want it personalized, you can say no, and you get all the information which we give then to everybody. So we're going to focus much more on giving you personalized information which works for you. That's 9:20, so that's the end of my talk and a bit of an overview of what to expect and of course what we've been working on. I hope you will enjoy it, and if you have any questions, please write to us via info@routeyou.com, or if you have another question, you can put it now in the chat and I'm going to see if I can answer that. If there are no more questions, I thank you very much and enjoy all the new features and the old features. And it's getting dark in the evening, so we have plenty of time to create new routes for the new season. Have fun with it. Goodbye.